In this video, we're going to go over the export capabilities within Quincy. We're going to do an overview of those capabilities, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the differences with how Quincy approaches it versus summation. Because the differences are actually fairly stark. At the end of the day, they both arrive at the same place, but Quincy approaches it, again, in a much more modular fashion. So let's go into the export widget and look at it. All right, here's our export widget. So we're just going to open it up. There are just two tabs, general and status. And it should seem like a very straightforward widget. It's actually probably one of the simplest ones out there. The reason it's so simple is when performing an export within Quincy, you should have already completed all the subtasks. Typical subtasks would be imaging, branding, slip sheeting, all that kind of stuff should already be done before you get here. Then once you're here, it's really as simple as choosing a name for your export. We'll call it demo video. Let's call it demo video 7, just in case I've got a demo video already. Export path. You must choose a place that does not already exist. So we'll do demo video 7 as well. I spelled video wrong, but it doesn't matter. We're not using a template. We're not going to save this report. We're just going to go straight and do a simple report here. So we need to choose our case. So let's go ahead and choose link 7. Oops. Then it will show you the various labels that you have in link 7. You need to choose one. You are exporting always from a label. You can choose the type of export, native, load file, AD1, or relativity. For now, I'm just going to do native, but we'll explore all of these. Let's just click native. When we click native, you can see some file naming options got exposed. Depending on what you choose, various different options get exposed. I think the biggest one is load file, which exposes a whole separate tab. So does relativity, that same tag, in fact. And AD1 actually has the least options available, I think. Oh, no, excuse me. It should prove me wrong. Well, no, actually, excuse me. That's pretty right. You have very few options with an AD1. So let's go back to native, though. Do we want to export by category? What does that mean? If you export by category, basically it means it's going to go through and each file category is going to get its own export. So if you had if you had videos, that would be an export. Files would be an export. Presentations would be an export. This is needed by very few customers, but some customers really do structure their exports this way. Most of you, I suspect, will just ignore this. Exclusion report is really about e-discovery. It shows you files that you didn't export. But again, I think most of the time you probably won't bother clicking on that. Here are the three primary ones: native, export images, or text. Let's click on each of them. Native, you can exclude labels. Typically, people don't exclude in natives, but you could. You have a number of other options. You can reduplicate. This is in the event that you've deduplicated and you want those deduplicates to actually be export. You can choose your email format, the PST options. And that's actually it for exports, native files. For exporting images, you can choose which ones to exclude. Here, it's pretty typical to have a label assigned to your spreadsheets because you don't want to produce those in images. And you can go ahead and exclude those and just only produce those in native. And then text. And text actually pops up some OCRing options, because not all documents have text, and depending on what you want to do with your text, you can choose that here. Do you want to OCR over extracted text? Do you want to extracted text over OCR text? Do you want both? And then do you want to OCR actively as part of the export OCR documents without extracted text? And then, how do you want to deal? You want to keep the existing OCR or OCR over everything? So just, choose which is ever right in your context. Honestly, I believe what you really should have already done in Quincy is already performed the various text operations, and then just choose this one because you know that you've got the text you want and don't mess with this stuff. But for now, we're just going to go forward with the simple exporting native files. And let's look at some of the naming options we have. We can export with the file's original name. We can append the object IDs. We can create a new name. Here you see your typical sort of Bates naming conventions. You can have a prefix, postfix, starting number, padding number, various numbering options by page, by suffix, by independent document page numbering. You can play with all those and figure out what they do for you. Two that are unique to Quincy, though, that I'm going to explore here are column and Bates number. If you choose Bates number, what that will do is whatever last Bates number was assigned to this document will be the name of the document. And if it's a multi-page document, it will get the Bates number of the first page. And then column allows you actually to assign the Bates to name these files based on any field in the database. And this is particularly powerful if you have custom columns. Let's say you have a column that you've used for coding for some reason and you want the files to be named based on the content of that column. You can go ahead, search in here for your custom column and utilize that column for naming. But let's just go with Bates numbering. And then let's just go ahead and run this. You can see it's submitting, export started. We could go to the job status to see what's how it's progressing. Let's go ahead and do that. In fact, let's go. Link 7 is what we called it. There's what our case is. Let's show, as you see, the active job. Let's go ahead and show all jobs. And we can go click on this and see the status. The status is really contained in this file. You can see right now it's on the exporting phase. It's already done file name and it's exporting the files. I'm pretty sure if we refresh now, we'll see that it's done. Yep, it's done. And now if we want to go get it, we simply go to this spot on our drive. So let's do that. Exports, and we called this demo video 7. And you can see this is our normal structure and our natives, which we exported here, and there are the Bates numbers of the files that we exported. Now let's go back into Quincy. I'll close this down and let's talk about some of the other different options you have here. We could do that same thing with an AD1. Let's just go ahead and click on AD1, change this path to call AD, and click Go. Same thing. You can see it starting. You can come over here, refresh the widget. You can see it completed already, so there's nothing to sort of watch, which is typical of a small AD1 export. It's very quick. Let's go back here to exports, demo 7 AD. There is our AD1. Let's go back into Quincy now. And let's look at load file. Close again this widget. Load file, very similar to how it works in summation. In fact, it's pretty much exactly the same. You can come here and you can choose your load file type. Let's choose summation. Give it a name, whatever. we will, for columns, you can, of course, click plus here and add columns, but you can also come in here and select, whatever standard grid columns you have. Let's just do documents. And it will import all those various columns that are part of the documents quick column set. Let me just go. I'm just going to go ahead and delete most of these. I just want the two. I'm going to give it some junk names. Well, actually, let's just be ID, name, and path. All right, I think that's all we need to do. Then we come back here and let's rename this. We'll call this load. And we're exporting. I just got to make sure I got it all right. Yep, we're doing good here. File naming, instead of Bates number, let's choose a column here so I can show you how that works. Let's go ahead and do shoot, there's not a really good one to do. We'll do logical size. You would never do this, but just so you get the idea, mostly it's going to be off of custom columns. But okay, let's go ahead and click go. Submitting load file export. We can do the same thing we've done before. Open up that widget. Refresh. You can see is it running or is it done already? I think it's running. Yeah, it's running. It gives us the option to kill it. Perfect. And again, we can click on this and see the stage it's in. In this case, just the naming files. Okay, done. Let's go back to our folder. See what we got here. Demo 7. And here's our load file. And let's go and look at the natives here to see the naming. You can see the logical file size. Of course, that's a idiotic thing to name files, but anyway, you get it. So we come back, and we can see that our DII is here, as well as the specifics of the load file. So the last thing to explore would be relativity. But relativity is really, honestly, it's too complex for this overview video. And there is a video dedicated to the relativity export. So I will leave that for that video. Just come here and show you really quickly that it has changed this page. You now enter the specs of your relativity environment. I don't think I'm actually logged into a oh, no, I am. Awesome. And then you can pick your various environments and how you want them to be treated, whether you want to append overlay or append an overlay, and then you can again choose the columns you want to export and go ahead and export to it. So in any event, that is an overview of export. One last thing is the status tab. It's all sort of a moot point because I kept jumping to the job window, which I actually think is a better representation. It tells you more information. If there's an error, you can go look at the error and things like that. But that same information, at least the cursory, the overview information is right here. So we, in fact, did not have to jump back and forth between the job widget. I do that by habit, and frankly, I prefer it. But you could have come here just to status and seen what was going on just as well. So that's the export widget. Hopefully this description was reasonably good and gets you started. If you have any questions, feel free to post, and good luck.